our next speaker this evening, MD Coverley, former president of the ELO, doesn't need any introduction to this group. However, I will say a Fukushima pinup girl, which is in the Media Arts Show and can be viewed and examined there, it actually pretties up the Fukushima disaster from 3/11, March of 2011. And it's this ongoing series that she's done in Excel spreadsheets that is documenting the distance between the stories that we're telling about Fukushima and the ongoing afterlife of that disaster. So, MD Coverley.
Margie, are you okay with that? Less, more? Like?
A little down is fine, just, yeah, so people can see the screen. Good. Great. Thank you. Yeah, point of elevation. It doesn't show the. Oh, that's true. Yeah, okay. Good deal, thanks. Okay, so many of you know me as Marjorie Lucebrink, the ordinary pedestrian person, and then I saw as MD Coverley, the new electronic writer. And so I've been working on these. Excel spreadsheets for about 3 years now, because I found out that the one software that I had in the entire world that I still knew how to work from 1983 had been the old SuperCalc, which was now Excel. And sure enough, those financial people are so smart; they make everything backward compatible, and it works the same way all the time. None of the authoring stuff for real artists worked that way at all. So I started working on this this thing called Tin Towns and Other Fictions, and it started out as a project to explore the idea of how great, I know this is really not fiction, but of course it is fiction, how great ideas come to, how great changes in the world and the ideas about them come to be obscured. So I started off with the Bronze Age and how it was that nobody could figure out why all these civilizations disappeared within about 200 years at the end of the 10th century BC, right around there. And of course, the whole idea seemed to be, after I'd read a bunch of stuff, was that they ran out of tin, and you couldn't make bronze without tin. And if you didn't have any tin, you couldn't make any bronze weapons, and the whole warfare thing just fell apart. And everybody was like shipping tin ingots and tin ships back and forth, and there were even shipwrecks, off the coast of Turkey with all this scrap tin. So that was the way that it started. And then, of course, I started looking at other kinds of major turnarounds in the world in which people were largely unaware of maybe one factor. I'm not saying that it was all the factors, but tin was certainly one of the factors for the collapse of the Bronze Age. And so one of these pieces is of course, the 2015 Fukushima pinup calendar, which I've been working on since November. And it's part of a project within Tin Towns and Other Fictions called The Fortunate Isle, which is the English translation of the Japanese word Fukushima. So I had done a bunch of other spreadsheets about Fukushima, and then I decided, I'm going to do a calendar. So this calendar is taking, some of you have seen this before, but now it's all populated. This calendar is taking the entire year with Fukushima things. Let's see. Do I going to get sound?
Is there a sound?
Yeah, just need to plug it in.
This looks like.
Thank you so much. I hope it's not too loud. Okay, so what I did was I decided that I couldn't, I'd saved all these articles, but I couldn't reproduce all of the material that I'd saved. So I did an artistic intervention and I said, I'm going to take certain issues and only the articles that appear in January about that issue will be in the January calendar, and February I will take certain other issues and so forth. And so I'll show you what the year looks like now. And also, at the end, I have just a few of these calendars, but I also will be populating this calendar until October, and then I'll have a wall calendar for the whole year of 2015, which you can get from me, and it'll be a print on demand. And of course, it'll be on the web for you to keep track of your own affairs and holidays and so forth. So this is January, the longest New Year's fireworks show on Earth, and it's all the news on the Fukushima Daiichi units 1, 2, 3, 4, and they're continuing to steam, and nobody knows really what exploded in the first place. So on each of these days, I've taken news stories that have occurred about this all the way from 2011 to 2014. And so, of course, let's see, 2012, a Japanese official says Fukushima is nearly as serious as being attacked by nuclear weapons. If facts were known, all citizens might have left Tokyo, and so forth. But of course, this goes on and on. February is about all other nuclear disasters in addition to Fukushima. But of course, some of the disasters happen out of the month of February, such as the Hanford site explosion or the Hanford site leaking in Washington, and the WIPP thing, which is mainly developed after February, in which we've got these leaky things in New Mexico. But there's plenty of stuff to populate the February calendar. March is mainly about Unit 4, which everybody's been worried about. And so we're having a Unit 4 anniversary party on the 15th in 2015. And of course, these are all stories just about Unit 4, which they've been trying to empty the spent fuel pool, and the building is pretty much collapsing. But it's got a tent over it, so it looks nice now. April is all about the spread of radiation across the Pacific and the rest of the world. April showers, rain keeps falling on my head, and so there's lots of news about that. And what's interesting, of course, is the revisionist stuff that happens, because, of course, in 2011, nobody was really quite sure what's happening, and by 2014, it's clear that it was probably continues to be more serious than people had thought 3 years ago. May is all about the people involved in Fukushima and what happens with them, something there is that doesn't love a reactor. The people of Fukushima were told to smile because, of course, people who are happy are not subject to radiation poisoning. And now, of course, they've got a huge new Fukushima food program where all the children in Fukushima are growing rice and eating it in order to dispel the bad rumors. June is all about water, and of course, water has been a big issue because they have 1,000 tanks and water in the ditches and water everywhere, and so these are all water stories. Now the water issue is that they wanted to put up a frozen wall so that they could keep the water from leaking into the Pacific. But now they find out, this is really interesting, now they find out that radiated water won't freeze at the same temperature that other water freezes at. So they're now going to have to abandon the frozen wall. July is all about ongoing smoke in other places across the plant. Nobody's really quite sure where it's coming from, although there are a couple of cameras that track it all the time. So there's lots of stories here about the firecracker that continues to threaten to explode. August is on the beach at Daiichi, secret, excellent, and little-known beaches of the world. And it's all about the beaches of eastern Japan. And of course, the Fukushima children that are encouraged, to go swimming in the ocean near Fukushima. And they have beach parties and so forth, which I'm sure everyone enjoys. September is all about weird animals and plants and mutations and so forth. All of this is, of course, part of the ugly rumor. But a lot of double things and gigantic oysters and so forth, which I find very fascinating. There's no evidence, of course, that has anything to do with the radiation, but we're keeping our eye on the news stories, and there's plenty, even if I just do the September stories in September. October is all about the workers at Fukushima and their tweets and their situation and so forth. Halloween in Fukushima is zombie night. On the ground or under it in Fukushima, a penny for the old guy. One of the late more recent stories coming out of Fukushima in 2013 is the other thing I mean is particularly silly things, that I read. So the international scientists said Japan experts must be allowed to report health consequences of Fukushima, that they're downplaying it, but the Japanese reporters said that they didn't need to report anything because the reporting would make people sad, and then they would be more subject to radiation. November is Turkey Trot, which is what's on the menu, and this is all the stories about what's been washing ashore from the tsunami and the radiated material coming in up in Hawaii and down the coast of the west coast of the United States of America. And what's funny is that I shouldn't have done this in November because it looks like most of the stuff tends to wash up late spring and early summer, and there isn't very much washing up in November. But of course, I said that I was going to do exactly what I was going to do, so I just reported the November stories on that. December is all about the questions about the corium melt-throughs, because we have 4 reactors and 3 of them have big corium nuclear fuel stored. And there's been a lot of question about what happened to the 3 reactors, and the corium seems to have melted through the reactor core and into the ground, but nobody's quite sure, so there's a lot of speculation. So that's our Christmas present, lit up like a Christmas tree as the corium sink into the ground, but we don't know quite where. So I hope that you will be able to you can visit this online at my site, Califia US, and it's capital tin, capital calendar, and you can grab yourself a pre-calendar if you like, and I hope that you will enjoy having your own calendar to keep track of your own dates too, and your birthdays as well. Thanks very much.